So I've wished for the demise of more Republicans in the last 4 years than the number of hairs growing from Chuck Grassley's ears. Like a lot of Democrats, I'm just not really privy to the idea of uniting with the far right, and I haven't been for a pretty long time. To me, it'd be like if an antelope tried to compromise with the alligator that just tore its legs off. I just didn't feel that engaging with modern conservatives was really the right move for me. I felt like it was going against all the hatred I felt while watching the news every single day for the past 4 years. So, cut to me and my mom walking downtown about month 7 of the pandemic. We had just passed Pioneer Square and this group of evangelicals yelling about this whole COVID hoax when an unkempt looking woman walked up to us. She might have been homeless, and telling by the scabs on her face, she was probably also a drug addict, but these are educated guesses. And as she came closer, it was clear she wasn't the kind of person that was going to ask pretty please for $1. She's the kind of person you see downtown and think, poor thing, and also, let's cross the street, if you know what I mean. And she wasn't 2 inches from my face when she said, give me your, and before she could finish, as anyone would assume, I thought I was being robbed. I thought I was going to leave that conversation about my phone or my wallet. But then she finished her sentence and she said, give me your goddamn mask. My mask. It didn't make any sense. And then the next sentence sort of made things clear. Those things are evil, she said. And I always try to make sure I mention the part because it's pretty funny at the time, but it was also a very terrifying moment for me. And so this woman had my mom and I blocked on this corner for like 5 to 7 minutes, yelling at us, screaming at us, demanding that we remove our masks, which we were not prepared to do. And all we could do was hope that some witness would show up and help us through this, whatever the hell this was. I mean, the block was seemingly abandoned. It was like no witnesses were in sight for this in Portland. It's crazy. And from this terrifying experience, 2 things really stick with me. One being, at one point she said, as far as I'm concerned, your name is Heather. Heather? Who's Heather? I mean, is she a fan of the movie? And I kind of realized that maybe Heather is her equivalent of a Karen, and she probably saw me as some whiny, uptight Karen, which is probably the consensus for most Republicans regarding Democrats. And I didn't want to be labeled like that. What in me represented that? And the other thing that I remember was her hatred towards my mom and I. She'd only known us for a few minutes, but she already hated us, and it didn't make any sense to me. For what, wearing a mask? But I realized that I do a similar thing to Republicans on a daily basis. Every time I see someone going down the street with a MAGA bumper sticker, I immediately despise them, and it's not really fair. My mom and I would go on to tell this story many times to many people, and we were always the victim. But if I was the victim, then who was the culprit? The obvious answer might be the woman, and you might be right. But I don't really think it was her. I don't even think it was the raving conspiracy theorist on Facebook who probably put that idea into her head in the first place and made her act out in the way that she did. I think a lot of progressives have been colored cynical to the word unity, especially when it applies to political parties. We have this phrase, when they go low, we go high, slapped onto our rear windshields, but we can't seem to remember the last time it's actually gotten us anywhere. But I've seen the last 4 years of polarization. I've seen it on the news, and I've seen it in person in countless protests, and it is the least progressive policy. So maybe I can't talk to my Aunt Robin about socialized medicine, and I can't get behind giving toddlers firearms, but I can still have a nice conversation with my relatives. Republicans should be able to talk to Democrats and vice versa. That's what democracy was based on, compromise, and I think we need to keep up that tradition. And in order to do that, I think we have to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and find common grounds, because in order to make a real change, you can never underestimate the value of pennies.